How's it? I'm going to talk about a topic called truth and how lies, the dynamics of lies versus truth, and how lies basically, you know, can be used effectively, um, especially in the context of this Holocaust hoax, which the whole world is in jail now for. And it's basically, you know, any good lie has got lots of truth in it, which is a huge factor in spinning a good lie that works. The truth is there is a flu. The truth is people have died from the flu. The the factors of truth are there. In fact, people even caught the flu and got very worried and themselves. Um, even in my own thoughts, although I didn't publicly broadcast it, I was a bit worried when I did catch this flu and I had all the symptoms, etc. And while I was having those symptoms, I was still debunking the entire thing, you know, at risk of looking very stupid if I pegged off. But something told me that there's just too much of a lie going on, and I stuck with my gut feel. But this whole thing has caught everybody out, and this is a pure case study of exactly how lies are so effective. Because now we reverse engineering this thing, and by the time we've all figured things out, the world has been forced into a vaccine scenario, and we've got no choices other than starvation and no ability to travel anywhere. By the time we figured out that lie, there's a whole bunch of new lies, because truth has to be investigated, basically. It has to be tested. Just think about when you say something that's true, you first think, well, is that verifiable? And you go and you check and you see, oh, no, it's not really verifiable, so you have to let go of that assumption. Or you go into it and you look and you see, no, this is 100% true. Now you've already taken time and investigation. It's very much like the experimentation process of in science. You analyze the results, and the results are what they are. They're not what you wish they would have been. But then you need to learn from that. And a truth that's saying it, I think it was Mark Twain who said, truth has gone right around the world before the lie has gone right around the world before the truth even has a chance to put its pants on, which is exactly how it works. And I was listening to John Lamprecht about this topic, and he's actually pointed out some very phenomenal aspects that I've never thought of before. The societies that we live in are built on truth. The most effective societies that are, the Western world was, when it became successful and powerful, they used truth as their building block, figuring out things like latitude and longitude, with proving it with maths and enabling them to travel the globe because of this. It's gone further into enabling people to, well, now they can fly at the speed of sound, twice the speed of sound, 15 times the speed of sound, all with cold, pure, steely truth. Whereas, some cultures had a Bible that they would call their Bible, like the Bhagavad Gita or something, where they believed it's the earth is a big rock suspended on the backs of elephants. And that's why you get earthquakes, by the way, because it's the elephants trembling. Also, then they went further, because no, the elephants have to be standing on something. And they're standing on something that's kind of like the consistency of honey, apparently. Okay. Then you take the Bible, which in Isaiah has perfect descriptions of the heavenly bodies and how they, rotate around, how Orion's belt is held in place with nothing. Well, that nothing is obviously gravity and the laws of the motions of bodies and all of those things. But it's describing an accurate universe. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, describes the perfect scenario for, time, space, and matter. It has to come in that order. Think about it. Time, because when, space, where are you going to put your matter? You can't just have matter before time, because when would this matter exist? You can't have matter without space, because where is it? Okay, so time, space, and matter. So in the beginning is time. God created the heavens, space, and the earth, matter. And then God's creation is the force of this whole process. And there's things that we'll never understand because we are not God. But we can do some pretty incredible things, but it has to be based on truth. And this is where E. Michael Jones, talks about logos. And I believe that that's what that is alluding to. Jesus represents logos, and it represents hard and fast rules, especially about how we conduct ourselves in our lives. And, within our own lives, we often lie to ourselves, and we crumble under pressure and do things the wrong way, which is, our fallen human nature, and that's an imperfect world. So in cultures of the Western world, the European cultures, largely everything is it's got to be built on truth and facts. I mean, they were fighting for these things, killing each other, burning each other at the stake. Well, they burnt the ones that were telling the truth at the stake, but they honestly thought they were fighting for the truth, or maybe there was a malevolent force behind them. But there are some serious factors going on. And this is where we've slipped up so badly. Like I said, there was a public example of how the mainstream media is an absolute mouthpiece of lies. With the Brexit, again, I'm going down to these examples because this is something that everyday people could pick up on, not belligerents like myself, who just seem to always get sidelined by people because, I'm not a conformist and never could be. And it's Christians and atheists alike, but all within our culture, because they are part of, unfortunately, our family, in the cultural sense, in the tribal sense. But so they accepted this, and they've accepted it, and let it go, let it slide, and lo and behold, the mainstream media lied again. But this one now is seriously affecting people. This is beyond affecting people. This is destroying lives. It's stealing our time. It's stopping us from having joy, going for a surf, running whenever you feel like it, running wherever you feel like it. If ever there were, constraints on our freedoms, which there were already, which were quite annoying, like taking your dog for a walk in the mountain used to annoy me no end. You have to have permits and all sorts of things. But now this is just on a whole other level. So allowing the lie to continue is what basically sank us. And I do say sank us because I don't see how they're going to let us out of jail, because in a sense, and release this kind of oppressive lockdown scenario. Because us running around freely and then really galvanizing, I mean, already there's talks of people absolutely refusing to buy Chinese products. They're going to support small business. They'll kick Amazon into touch. They'll probably never set foot in Pick and Pay ever again, or Tesco's if you're here in London ever again, or whatever, the mainstream places. people are going to seriously make a concerted effort, but they will never allow this. Now it's basically either we absolutely overthrow them, in my opinion, which is the only way we can do this. How that happens, I don't know. Or we just have to roll with the punches and hide away from the vaccine for as long as possible and hold out against this RFID, chipping, that process that they putting out there. It also brings into the fact of how many times people have been sitting there and going, Mr. We're starting out things with, it's a complaint, and then they start out with Mr. President. Firstly, our president is not presidential. None of them are. None of these ministers are ministerial. You're already based, you're hoping for things that are based on a lie already. Our constitution is like the Communist Manifesto. I'd prefer the Magna Carta even. Is the most solid kind of constitution to ever have. But these people are trying to upright this building of South Africa that in 1994 was already built on a garbage heap of lies. Not like the Western civilization that builds on one brick at a time. If they thought the apartheid was full of lies, this is now in a whole other league. And they believe that they bought into these lies. And they're wondering now why they can't right this ship. Trying to cite the Constitution says, and, going down the DA haven't done this, and the DA can do this for us, and we must back the DA or whatever party you want to put in there. A lot of people are just sitting around and they cannot understand why they can't right this ship and what's really going on. And part of it is that they haven't identified that the entirety of it is built on this foundation of a garbage heap of lies. The whole Mandela was a wonderful man who stood up for freedom and freed South Africa. He healed the nation. And there were these just absolute pearls that came out of this whole ANC and so on. And admittedly, Mandela is a hell of a lot better than what came after him, which is, but he didn't exactly he set a low standard and then failed to achieve it himself. But the others that came along, it's absolutely clear that they're not there to run our country. They're there to rule it, squeeze out every bit of blood, give the cut to the oligarchs, which is bigger than what they actually get. The billionaire oligarchs who were backing all these people. But nobody can see this garbage heap foundation of lies that this building is supposed to be built on. And so they're still trying to prop things up and use this. Guys are coming on the internet and ranting on, which we should be ranting. We should be doing a lot more than ranting. Saying some brilliant truths, but they're not understanding the fact that this rainbow nation and forced integration, all of these things are part and parcel of, and you can't go further until you've addressed that the foundation is tribe in the way that they've structured it. We have a rainbow nation as in terms of diversity. We always had that. 1980, quite honestly, I think the meanness of the country and the racist values had already, for the most part, evaporated, which was exactly when the worst sort of bombing started. Well, a lot of, political strife and, well, I could be wrong about that because I think in the 70s they had some bombings already. But basically, the demonization process that we've received after this apartheid thing has been in itself, possibly the biggest lie of the whole thing. Just absolute demonization of anything colonial or white or whatever. So already the ladies were on board with this whole feminist thing, and that, basically your husbands and your boyfriends treat you very badly. Your white husbands and boyfriends treat you very badly. So there was already trouble on the home front in that sense, given to us by the same people, by the way. But, people tell me, you mustn't talk about these issues and those issues. It's too big. And unfortunately, you have to address the foundation. And when your foundation is total lies, and your politicians are not there as politicians, but as blood-sucking politics, as Peter Hammond often says, then you can only start to reason. But at the moment, you're trying to build solid structure on a garbage heap, and it's just going to keep caving down, and you're still not going to wonder, and you're still going to sit there wondering, what's going on? Why can't we write this thing? And Afrikaners and English alike, they're in the same rut. And of course, the forbidden is to become right-wing, the absolute forbidden. And also because they have a misunderstanding of what right-wing is, which was, for the most part, demonized much more than what it ever deserved. If you ever watched that film in the 80s, a lot of films in the 80s were masterfully done. That film like Mississippi Burning, I mean, at the end of that film, you think these characters are absolutely vile, disgusting. You're glad that they got what was coming to them. But what you don't realize is it's a demonization process. A very good one, and a very captivating one. So yeah, there's no way out until you work out that your foundations are rubbish. And things need to be built anew, which is actually what the New World Order is trying to do. But if ever there was a bad situation, it's them rebuilding the world for us. We do not take one single order from these people, not one. They are absolutely people to be regarded with contempt. Their instructions with contempt. Every little one. What's coming out of the newspapers and its mainstream media has just been constant lie spinning. And it, like I say, the lie is so quick to get out and to sprint off, and the truth is still kind of waking up and yawning. And by the time you've figured these things out, you've realized that they've put into place a whole lot of other things that now you have to deconstruct later on, and you're constantly on the back foot. But if you look at the foundations of civilizations, and you cannot deny, like, the Europeans had incredible places built, and I think we've had even our kings and queens system and the feudal system, even that was demonized a lot more than we under far more oppression than many of those kings and queens ever put their people under, because essentially they were of their people. They were not ruled by some other group that came in from the outside, which has been imposed on Europe in the biggest way. I mean, if you look at the top guys in British Parliament, it's the guys with real pull. It's Boris Johnson, who's basically got a Turkish and a great-grandfather who was Jewish. Sadiq Khan, all these people that ones that actually have the top 5 sort of positions. They're not even ethnically British. It's an absolutely racist overthrow, and allowed to take place because of lies, of course. The guilt manipulation of the past affected these people in Europe, and they just thought, well, they're because they've been so bad and their ancestors were so bad, perhaps they deserve this themselves, and they must help these people to also be successful. But a dog can see that, say 100 years ago, where was what was considered first world countries and the best places to live, with the right balance between agriculture, city life, and nature. And it was the Western societies, whereas poor parts of the world, what we call the third world, that didn't have a Christian background and foundation, seemed to just be hellholes right from those days onwards. So think about this whole scenario first about what is the foundation. If you uncovering a lie right at the top of the building, what are your foundations sitting that your entire thing is sitting on? And I think this is where a lot of South Africans go wrong, where they think that the Constitution is going to help them. The Constitution is like the Communist Manifesto. Those values have been installed into everybody else. They think that those are the values. But the value, the core value is truth. Logos, as E. Michael Jones says, and obedience to God, which God is truth and logos. So however you want to attack this thing, eventually it's going to lead you to the same place. As long as your premise is absolute truth, and it's not about proving people wrong or being the next leader or being the next person who has 100 million views on the internet or whatever. It's not about flashy kind of documentaries, or it's actually your content, your truth, which is the real steel. You can always put great music and good editing skills into a video if you want to produce one and or inspire people or whatever. But the core has got to be those solid rocks of truth. None of this garbage heap pile of foundation where they try and build a skyscraper and they wonder why they can't get past the third floor, and then it starts subsiding on that side of the building. Then they go and prop that side of the building up and they can't prop it up and the other side starts falling, and so on. So the dynamics of the lie is also quite good to understand, and how a very good lie is based on as much truth as possible, if possible, but it's steering you towards 90 degrees adjacent angle, or even 180 degrees from the actual truth, from the actual result, in some subtle way. I mean, with the COVID, I would say, it's 10% truth, and then 90% lies. But that's good enough for most people, it seems, and mainstream media are good enough to uphold that. Even rat poison is 90% food and 10%, poison. Here we've got a completely inverted value of rat poison in our mainstream media. There should be some serious alarm bells going on. And anything other than the absolute undivided truth now coming from the mainstream media, you may as well just shut it off. There's absolutely no point in listening to them, other than getting our next instructions for what you may and may not do, which is actually what you should be absolutely doing. If they're telling you may not do this, that's exactly the thing you must do. Civil disobedience, real disobedience, all kinds of additional fight back are going to be needed. And, I could suggest a couple of other things, but it seems to it's a waste of time because nobody's going to do it. Like, I mean, I'm not, I probably won't do it, but I can be guaranteed that nobody else is going to do it. And that's what counts. Not that I'm getting it into trouble, or because we're already all in trouble anyway. I mean, basically, the things I can suggest, I think a lot of people could come up with, brainstorming, and put things out there, and any kind of action, even if you brainstormed and you chose the second best option and it was a mistake, it's still better than doing nothing. This is the whole thing. This is how Napoleon was so effective, was he went and he didn't bother with negotiation tables and this, that, and the other. He understood 100% how it all works, how the power of the army and the crushing that force in front of them was the prime objective. And he didn't get sidetracked by these offers, and they were coming at him at all angles, And that's why he was actually brilliant, in my opinion, was he didn't take the bait. And these liars are masters at this whole thing. Let's discuss peace, especially when you're winning, which we are not. But if we ever get in that situation, they're going to go full Napoleon. Anyway, that's all from me. Catch you later.